I'm Hemant Mehta.
And I'm Jessica Blimke.
And you're listening to the podcast for FriendlyAtheist.com. You can now listen to these podcasts and all of our old ones and see show notes at the newly designed FriendlyAtheistPodcast.com.
Max Temkin is one of the creators of Cards Against Humanity, the party game for horrible people. What began as a game Max played with his friends soon became a successful Kickstarter campaign in 2011, and has turned into one of the most popular and entertaining card games today. It seems like somebody breaks it out at every gathering I'm at. Max, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, how are you guys? I mean, right now, you're in the middle of this 10 days or something of Kwanzaa. I keep getting stuff in my mail that cracks me up, and I can't share with anybody because my family doesn't have a sense of humor. So, where did those ideas like that come from, where you're like, hey, just give us some money and we'll send you something? We're not going to tell you what it is. Because you did it last year, too, and it was great.
Yeah, I mean, these things are gradual evolutions. Like it never just like appears fully formed as this really complicated idea. So it started a few years ago where we wanted to do like a special pack for the holidays, and we thought it would be fun instead of just selling it to do a pay what you want model, so people could pay anything for this pack, including nothing, and we would send it to them in the mail. And it did pretty well. We raised, I think it made like $70,000 in profit, and we gave that all to Wikipedia. And that was like and then that also surprised us because it became like a big kind of media sensation, and there was all this press and conversation around it. So from there, we just started thinking, how do we do this bigger and better? And the sort of obvious solution was, instead of sending one thing in the mail for the holidays, to send a bunch of stuff in the mail for the holidays. So that's how the holiday bullshit was born.
How long does it take to coordinate all of the things you're going to send? How much advanced planning goes into that? And how many people are involved in this whole process?
Well, I'll start with the last one. So Cards is company was started by 8 people, or really the game was made by 8 people. And we all grew up together in the suburbs of Chicago, and we've been friends ever since we were very, very young. Most of us met like on the playground in first grade. So now we made the game in 2011, I believe. Was when the Kickstarter got funded for the game for the first, and that sort of paid for our first printing. And now it's a couple of years later, and we have about 8 employees here in Chicago, and we have a small office in Logan Square, and soon be moving to a much bigger office / co-working space. So that's kind of the team that executes all of these crazy pranks and jokes and does the customer service and designs all the materials and everything.
So I'd love to hear about the genesis of this game, because in my head, it's like the 8 of you sitting around a table, like saying all the worst things you can think of. Or was it that planned out, or was it more natural than that?
Well, there's sort of there's sort of the short version of the story that we tell everyone, and then there's like the more complicated version of it. So the short version is that this was just a thing that we made for ourselves for a New Year's party, and it was never designed with the idea that anyone else would play it. But then we all brought it back to our different colleges, and people played it there, and it was sort of surprised us that people thought it was really funny. And then we put it online, and then it just sort of
blew up from there.
It took on sort of a life of its own from there. But the more complicated version of the story is that this is, we all grew up, we all love games, we love board games, we love comedy, and this is just sort of we have a long tradition of like making silly games to play just with ourselves, and Cards was sort of the last in the line of what were pretty terrible games, and it just sort of evolved. It just sort of like evolved organically from experimenting with different wordplay games, games like Mad Libs and Apples to Apples and things like that.
So you have like a customer service line? Because I would love to be a fly on the wall.
That has to be an interesting customer service department.
I have worked in customer service, and people complain about the weirdest things.
I'm not going to spoil it, but it is a 24-hour customer service line, and I highly encourage you to call it. I think you'll find that you'll get very satisfactory customer service.
What's the number? Dare I ask?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's on our website,
All right.
cardsofhumanity.com.
We'll post it. We'll post it
see if I
on the
can pull it up.
notes for the show.
Okay.
So the 8 of you who created the game, are all 8 of you still involved in the creation of new packs of cards? Do you guys still talk about what's going to be happening with cards in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So they all 8 of, and that's probably the best part about the game, for me at least, is it becomes this great reason and also money for us to get to see each other a few times a year, which is really great because the guys now, we all live all over the country. So we get together maybe 4 times a year, and we do sort of writers' retreats. So we sort of sequester ourselves away somewhere, far from civilization. We like going to like lake houses or rental places or things like that, and we just sit and write funny ideas and come up with weird things and try and make each other laugh, and somehow the game comes out of that. And then in terms of actually running the business, we do every Monday night we do just a video call, and that's actually our only meeting of.
To deal with the administrative stuff, or to deal with all the customer service complaints.
Yeah, we try and do some creative work on the meetings. Usually we'll do like 2 hours of business and 1 hour of creative work. And that's usually how it breaks up. But we always save the creative work for last because it's obviously like the most fun. But then by the time we get to it, we're all like cranky from talking about money and I don't know, business things.
So what do you think it is that makes people pay extra for Cards Against Humanity packs on Black Friday or actual buying literal boxes of bullshit? Like, what's drawing
Why are people doing that?
What's drawing people to it?
Yeah.
Or do you know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's like a one simple answer for that. I think part of it is this really gets to my roots of like what I think is funny, which is like I love pranks and I love spectacles and I love practical jokes, and I think people like being on the inside of that. People like helping to make a prank and helping to make a practical joke. Like you're part of something that's really silly, and the bigger the scale, the more outrageous it is to sort of be part of it. So when we do something where the joke is that people buy something, like the joke is that people buy poop, the people are, they're buying the poop. They're also sort of doing this improvisational prank with us, where we're sort of in this improv scene with them, but we do our part and they do their part, and the result is this crazy media spectacle and this really silly, absurd thing that happens.
Which is so funny because on your website, you were very clear, like, this is actual literal bullshit. You are buying bullshit, just so you know. I don't know what people were expecting.
Very few people were surprised that they got poop. I mean, we sold 30,000 of them, and maybe a dozen people sent us, angry emails, and we just gave them their money back.
Who do you go to? Who do you go to buy 30,000 boxes of bullshit?
I know
like,
a guy,
what vendor? You know a guy.
We started like anyone else would. We just went on Google and we were like, can you buy bullshit? Can you sell it? Can you put it in the mail?
Now, important question. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, what do we know it was bullshit? Might it have been cow shit? Because I feel like if I got cow shit and I paid for bullshit, I would be mad.
I'm pretty sure that it's actual bullshit. We found this. The rancher we worked with was this really nice lady in Texas named Amy. And she was pretty clear that she got the joke and wanted to make it happen for us.
That's awesome. I mean, it beats the owl pellets I dissected it in like 5th grade.
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh man, I remember that. I found a vole. What did you find?
Yeah, I found the whole skeleton.
Well, I think Hammond and I both grew up in the suburbs too. Yeah. So
I grew up in the south suburbs. You were from, I think, Highland Park, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Where'd you grow up?
Orland Park. So
I'm from Burr Ridge, so it was the same fucking vole we all found. They just repackaged it.
I heard you got involved in high school with Barack Obama's campaign for Senate when he was running in Illinois. So you knew Obama in a sense because before anyone else really knew who this guy was, before he was getting all this national media attention. So not to change the subject, but what drew you to that guy?
Yeah, so I'm 27. So when I was in, so my freshman year of high school was 9/11. And then the years after that in high school were, all the craziness after 9/11, war in Iraq, the Patriot Act, all that kind of stuff. And that was all kind of happening really rapidly as, you get to that age. For me, I got to that age where, I started reading the news, and I kind of figured out how to use the internet to read the news. And it just was it was so crazy. It was like the whole world, it was like a Twilight Zone thing. It was like everyone went insane, and it didn't make sense to me, because on the one hand I'd be in history class or whatever, learning about how the way the country is supposed to work, just really basic stuff, like people are supposed to read bills before they sign them, and they're supposed to have a declaration of war.
Well, now come on, they don't have that kind of time to read. Come on, Max.
Well, right, but it's like very fundamental things that you're told. It's like, when you're in high school, someone's like, "Here's the way the country works," and then you go on the internet, and it's like, we're not going to do those things. It was just crazy. So I got really, it was a time in my life where I was really angry about politics, and I was like an angry internet commenter, and I went to an anti-war Iraq war rally, during the lead up to the Iraq War, when it was pretty clear it was going to happen, but it hadn't started yet. It was in Daily Plaza. It was a big protest, and there were a bunch of elected officials and people there, and there was this state congressman, or state senator at the time, Barack Obama, and he got up on stage and gave a great talk, and I just remember thinking, man, that guy,
he gets it.
That guy is no bullshit. He is it must be really hard to get up on that stage and have a really unpopular opinion right now. And I was like, if there's ever a time in my life when I can, get involved with that guy or help him, go somewhere bigger, I would love to do that. So a couple of years later, he ran for the Senate seat in Illinois, and I was just in high school, but I volunteered for the campaign, and it was much glamorous. I would go before school. I'd go to the train station, and I'd stand in the snow and hand out Obama flyers to people.
Wow.
But from that, I met people who worked on the campaign, and I got a position working on the presidential campaign in 2008. So it was just sort of a weird, right place, right time piece of history to be a part of.
What did you do for his campaign in 2008?
I started as an intern, and then I found myself in all these meetings where people were saying, "Oh, we can't do this because the website's not ready, or we don't have this piece of design." And I was like, I didn't really exactly know how to do that stuff, but I was like, I could probably figure this out. So I just started saying, "Oh yeah, I can make a website. I can do that design.
I'll handle the Obama campaign. Don't worry about it. I got this."
Yeah, well, there was a team of people who were doing this for the big stuff, but this were just little, small meetings that I was in for little projects here or there. But then it was like, once I said I could do it, I sort of had to do it. So then I would just go home and I'd be like, "Okay, how do you make a website?" So that was a cool time. I learned taught myself HTML, and I got good at Photoshop and InDesign, and I eventually got a staff position on the campaign doing design, and then I did GOTV, or Get Out the Vote, in Miami-Dade County in Florida.
Mm-hmm. So not to switch back and forth on you.
Sure.
You told us what the process is. You have these writers' retreats for coming up with new cards with the writers and everything. How many ideas get discarded? How many do you throw out?
And can you release those as another expansion pack?
So I can tell you a little bit about the, it's rarely a strict yes or no decision. I can tell you a little bit about the process.
Please.
The creative process for how we write the game. So basically, we have we live in Google spreadsheets. That's kind of our bread and butter for writing and for organizing the game. And actually, the canonical list of cards of this is the game. Mm-hmm. Our stone tablet of the game. That's just a Google Doc somewhere on Google servers. So basically, our first doc, the rawest form of the writing, is a document that we call the hopper. The hopper is it's just a scratch pad, and throughout your day, you're in a funny situation, a funny social situation, or you see a funny ad, or just something pops out at you, or someone says something funny, you read something funny in a book, and it just goes on the hopper. And the hopper is like a brain dump. So we all go through our lives just pouring stuff onto the hopper, and we can have, at any given point, there could be thousands and thousands of things on the hopper. Then we do, on our weekly meetings where we do, our video chats all together, we appoint someone each week as the card czar, like the judge, and they take cards off the hopper that they like, and they try and sell them to the group. And it's kind of a cool process because it's all anonymous. So when you submit to the hopper, no one gets credit for a joke. So what it does is and then you don't pitch your own jokes. You're sort of pitch things that you think are funny. And it's great because it kind of it lets us take our ego out of the writing. Because when you're pitching jokes or talking about jokes, no one's on the line, right? We never know. We don't know who wrote what joke. We just know it's a joke. And then we can all be very candid in our discussion of it because we don't have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings or bruising any egos or anything like that. So usually the judge will pick, 20 cards or something, and they'll try and sell them. So they'll read the card with a couple of black cards to combinations to prove that it's funny. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they'll make more of an intellectual argument of here's what's funny about the card, or here's why I like this joke. And then sometimes everyone will just shit all over it and we'll throw it out immediately. Or other times, it'll lead to a discussion, or we'll riff on it, and we'll come up with a new funny idea from that discussion. That's a pretty common occurrence. And the most rare thing is we all love it, and it goes. We sort of approve it for further consideration. And then so if we either come up with a new idea that we all like, or if we approve the hopper card, then it goes to the second spreadsheet called the short list. So the short list is cards that we've sort of previously vetted as having some consensus among the group. So okay, there's something interesting here, but we try not to quibble. We try not to get into grammatical fights or punctuation fights or something at that point. And then we do these retreats a couple times a year, and that's when we get out the short list that we've been building up for the last few months, and we all sit down and it's just an absolute brawl of everyone trying to fight for the cards they like. Everyone wants to move a comma, move a period, change a word. But somehow out of that, we get a pretty solid pack of writing if we're lucky.
I love that Cards Against Humanity is a giant game of grammar between the creators. That amuses me.
It is. I think people often imagine that we're these drunk bros and we just sit around and say hilarious things, but none of us are comedy writers, and we're not very, I wouldn't say we're very confident writers. We're just very sort of precise, neurotic, self-conscious writers. So we
that's a writer.
We spend yeah, maybe. So we just spend so long on each joke, and we agonize. We'll get a thesaurus out, or we'll get a usage dictionary out, and we just agonize over every word. And we'll have arguments about, is a joke bullying someone? Is it mean to someone? Is it, all of that stuff plays into what a good card is. And then, of course, the white cards have to work. They have to be really versatile with the black cards. The black cards have to bring out they have to be new. They have to bring out some new aspect in the white card. So that we try and write the cards so there's interesting interactions, and that can be puns and wordplay, or just, showing the cards in a new context or bringing out some aspect of the cards. For example, a black card that has to do with, what's that smell, for example, it brings out a new aspect of the white card that you might not have considered otherwise, because now you're thinking about what they smell like.
Right. So because now I can play Ebola, and it's a totally different meaning.
Exactly. Or it brought out a new aspect of it. Or let you be clever. It helped you come up with some clever wordplay or clever something unexpected. Mm-hmm. So that's what categorizes good writing. And then sometimes we just get tired, and we get punchy, and someone just makes something up like long sex snakes, and it just kills us. And then we're like, I don't know what that is, but it has to go in the game.
Is it harder to come up with black cards or white cards?
They have different ups and downs. So the black cards are grueling to write. I mean, it is, and it's getting harder. And it's we picked all the low-hanging fruit there, and it is so hard to write a good black card. It can take us, we can go hours without just trying to brainstorm, without writing a passable black card. But the nice thing about black cards is they're really fun to test, because it basically just becomes playing the game with cards that no one else has ever played before. So it's that's our favorite thing, is because they make the game fun for us to play again when we write new black cards. Whereas the white cards, they're much easier to come up with because you're just sort of naming funny things in the world, but they're just so boring to test because you're just playing, at this point we're so sick of the black cards, we've played them a bajillion times. Mm-hmm.
So there are some cards in the deck that do offend people, which is kind of the idea. But you
I don't think
alluded.
it's kind of the idea. I think it's
It
the
is
idea.
I mean, you alluded to this though. There was an uproar, a little while back because there was a card that said, passable transvestite. And you said later on, you regretted writing that card. Maybe it was funny at one point, but you matured. You realized, who are we making fun of here?
Times progressed.
Yeah, time's progressed. How do you guys determine when you've crossed the line and when some card, which might be offensive in the wrong way to certain people, that one can pass, but these other ones are too much? Like, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, that's the question. And I hope we're not the arbiters of what counts as good taste in society. I don't want that responsibility. But that being said, the game is, it's hard. It's hard to pretend to us that people aren't playing the game. It's kind of a part of the popular culture right now. And I think we all feel some responsibility to make sure that we're not being bullies. Many of us were bullied growing up, and we've been through that. And we certainly don't want to pay that forward to write something that's going to make someone else feel bad. So there's a difference between a card that's outrageous because it makes fun of someone who's in a position of power and it takes them down a peg and it's calling them out for something, mean or bad that they've done, and something that's just picking on someone who already doesn't have a lot of cultural power. They're already victimized in some way. So that's the kind of the some people would refer to that as punching up versus punching down, and we always want to make sure that when we can, that we're punching up. And of course, the tricky thing about that is we're 8 white dudes, that's right. That's not the group that we picked. We all went to school together, and that's our childhood friends, our people you grew up next to. But there's no pretend, that does not give us a huge variety of human experience to bring to the game. So, we make lots of mistakes, and we are privileged. We find all the time that we're privileged in ways that we don't expect. Saying are okay or not okay, and when that happens, we just try and be humble about it, and we try and apologize, and we fix the game. And that's all we can do.
I feel like that's a really reassuring thing to hear you say, that you, as a upper-class white guy, understand the difference between punching up and punching down, as you said, because I feel like that's lost a lot in the culture, that people are like, how come it's okay to say, guys do this, but if you say, gay men do this, it's not okay, whereas, it's
not an easy thing to recognize for a lot of people,
especially if you're in the position of
and that's in general, that's an idea that's really, it's not cool right now to talk about the idea of good taste. And it's people, there's this idea of people don't understand the distinction between that you can do something and that you should do something. It seems to be a distinction that's totally lost in public discourse.
I imagine it's got to be tough when the mistakes, if you guys make mistakes in the deck of cards, it plays out in the public. If you all 8 decide, this card's going in the pack, it's going to look like this, and then, months later, people start complaining about it. I mean, it's a very public sort of spectacle, and that can't be easy to deal with.
Yeah, although I will say, to our credit, we haven't had a situation yet where people got mad about something that was currently in the game. We've actually only ever had a situation where people get mad about something that we had already decided to take out of the game. So the passable transvestite card is the perfect example. That all blew up as a result of a Tumblr post, and that Tumblr post was made almost a year and a half after we
took
had
it out.
taken that card out of the game. So it was an easy apology to make, right?
Right.
Sure.
You realized it before
it.
that we were pressured to realize it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
You're only 27 years old, and I imagine that when you create this game, and it's just a fun game for you guys, it's one thing. You got to be a businessman now. I mean, you got to run a company of sorts.
Hell no. If I can, when is this going? I'll tell you how much that's not the case. When is this going out?
You know what? I don't know yet. In a few weeks.
Yeah, in the next month or so.
Fine. Okay. So on Friday we're doing our 10 days of holiday bullshit this year, And we're actually on Friday for the 9th day that we're giving $1 from every subscriber, from everyone who subscribed. We're giving their dollar for that day to the Sunlight Foundation.
Yes, I just got that one in the mail.
To the what foundation?
Sunlight Foundation, where they say where all the money is going to politicians. Like, these groups are giving money to these politicians. You should know about that.
Interesting.
And they made a $250,000 donation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
unbelievable.
$1 from everyone who subscribed. So it's an awesome day. I couldn't be more excited about the announcement. Like, it's right in my wheelhouse of like doing a funny political thing. And I've been working with the Sunlight Foundation really closely on the announcement, just making sure, that we're coordinated and everything. And we realized this week, the letters went up, they got sent out, and then we're waiting, and we're like, we're going through our checklist, and we're like, okay, they're in the mail. We're going to get them any day now. We've done everything. And we realized, like, oh, you know what? We didn't pay the Sunlight Foundation. We just sent everyone a letter saying that we gave them $250,000.
Right.
We didn't actually give them $250.
Oh, no.
Or $250,000. So we scramble and we find the checkbook, which is like we've been made fun of because it's a checkbook like you get from your. It's just a checkbook from a bank, but like
just in your bottom drawer.
It's the initial one with like just the random example checks.
Like Looney Tunes characters.
It's like perforated check. You carry out of a little booklet and you have to write. Yeah. So we wrote a check. I had someone else do it. I was like, just write this check and like put it on my desk.
I need a $250,000 check right now.
Yeah, right. Well, it's really silly, but that's like, I don't know what else you're going to do. Like, I guess, yeah, anyway, that was what occurred to us. So everyone's like scrambling, and we like someone goes and gets a stamp, because we don't need stamps, and we send this off. And then I get a letter, and we overnighted it, and then I get a letter back from them yesterday, and they're like, thank you so much for the check. Great to see it. However, you did forget to sign it, so you can't actually deposit it.
Oh, no.
That is 100% true story. So then we called our bank and we realized that you can just wire people money. So that's what we did. But anyway.
So wait, let me get this straight. You just wired. You still wired a group $250,000, which is kind of a big deal, which is amazing. But let me go back to that question though. You have had to become a businessman, even one who
you should have become a businessman.
You should have become a businessman. I mean, that's not necessarily a responsibility you asked for when you guys came up with Cards Against Humanity. And I say this for you and your buddies who came up with this. Have you made that transition okay, where you guys are running a company, and it's a big company?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a confidence we like.
I personally, honest to God, I really don't know what I'm doing with that stuff. And like an example is like when I do interviews or sometimes people ask me like how many games we sell, and I literally have no idea. Like I think I could have that information, but I don't. Like it freaks me out, so I don't look at it.
Yeah. So you would be a failure on Shark Tank or something, but.
Oh man, we'd get just ripped to pieces. Although it is that is hilarious. Every time we go home, like Christmas break or whatever, see our folks, someone is always like, "You should go on Shark Tank."
You're like, I think I got it, Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Grandpa. But we got really lucky that so there's among the 8 of us, everyone went off and did really interesting and weird stuff. So there's 2 of the guys are in grad school for physics and psychology. Some of the guys did economics and business stuff, and some of the guys did art stuff. So we have a really good, just by pure luck, we wound up with the 8 of us having a good set of skills to be able to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got really lucky that there's other guys, the other guys who wrote this thing with me know how to balance a bank account and make a company and all that kind of stuff. I really, it's not my thing. I really don't do any of that stuff.
I think it's an interesting choice that you guys made that you only sell the game online, which I know because there's a Target by my house, and every Christmas when I'm walking around, I can see these poor guys in the red shirts who work at the Target, and they keep I've heard 3 different people be like, do you guys sell Cards Against Humanity here? And every time they're like, no, you can only fucking buy it online. Please leave me alone, old person. Are you planning on selling them in stores, or is that a specific choice you guys made not to do that? Or is that wrong information?
Well, initially it was a couple of things. The first thing is none of us knew enough about how, so what you're supposed to do when you make a game is you're supposed to get a publisher and a distributor, and you get into retail and, get licensed and all this stuff. And we didn't know that. Like, I don't know, how would you know that? How would anyone know that? So we just assumed it was like, okay, well, yeah, you got to sell it on your website now, and you got to make it yourself. So we did, because that was all we knew. We Googled like how to make how to print a card game, and that's how we found our printer. But the other thing is, at least initially when the game was new and just coming off of Kickstarter, there wasn't any stores that wanted to sell this thing. Like, they took a look at it and they were like, this isn't marketable. Like,
it says balls in it. We're not selling it.
Yeah, exactly. So now, I mean, things have changed, and for years, we've Target and everyone has called us and they want to sell it. But I don't know, it doesn't feel like who we are. Like, part of the fun of the game is that it's not for everyone. Like, I honestly don't know that I don't think it would do well if it was in Target. But part of the fun of it is that it's this thing you discover for yourself online.
Yeah,
and
your friends have it.
I know this is like a dumb thing to say, but like even if you go to our website and order the game, like, our ordering process is really well designed and it's really funny. Like, we did that entire process all built from the ground up, like, by us, to be really quick and easy to use and funny.
When I signed up for 10 days of holiday bullshit, they asked me which animal I wanted to have sex with, which I had to think about for a little while.
Answered?
I believe I said panda like everyone else.
I mean, that's just good sense.
Yeah,
obviously.
Panda was the big one. I think we live in a panda state, actually. I think Illinois is a panda state.
It's funny? I literally this week just realized I don't own Cards Against Humanity.
What is wrong with you?
Because all of my friends own it, and I never realized I didn't have it. Because if I go to a party, we're always playing it, so I just assumed it was in my game closet, and I don't own it. So I have
it's like Monopoly. Someone's got to have it.
Somebody has it.
Max, what's the best pairing of cards you have ever seen? Maybe an unintentional one that you guys didn't come across during your, I guess you can call it beta testing, or have you ever heard of a pairing that you're just like, didn't see that coming and it's hilarious?
Oh, man. I get asked this a lot, and I should probably have one and memorize it, but I don't. Let me go into the chat, into our Slack room, because I saw a really funny one today, and I posted it. Let me see if I can't find this.
I saw one while you're looking for that. I saw, and I assume it's real because it was on the internet, and
of course
I think
it's real. Then
there is testing there. But I saw one that Lance Armstrong was playing, and he played a card that was like Lance Armstrong's remaining testicle or something like that.
You've got to be kidding me.
You didn't know that? Okay,
no.
I'm gonna find it now. All right. To Twitter we go.
I feel like I've seen that too.
Fill in while we're googling.
There was a great. I saw an amazing play today. Here it is. It was, that's right, I killed blank. That's right, I killed blank. How you ask blank. So that's right, I killed Bosnian chicken farmers. How you ask, a murder most foul. And it's a great pun on the word foul. Yeah, like, we totally did not write that card
with that intention.
Joke, but there it is.
Great. While Jessica's looking for this Lance Armstrong thing, Max, what offends you? Anything at this point? I mean, I assume you've seen it all, kind of, when it comes to coming up with these cards. Does anything offend you?
Yeah, I mean, I think what offends. Well, there's a great Christopher Hitchens quote, and he's asked a similar question. He's like, what do you? Someone asked he's doing a talk. And he gets a question from the audience, and someone says, what do you say when someone says, your beliefs offend me, or what you're saying offends me? And he says, it's a very American thing that to say, that offends me, as if it ends the conversation. Like, you being offended by something is your problem. Like, it really has not. It doesn't really have anything to do with the merit of my argument. Mm-hmm. And that's something that takes part. Like, I try. When I find myself to have a lot of righteous indignation or to be really offended by something, like, it's a pretty unattractive emotion. And I usually try and figure out, like, break it down and figure out what's at the root of it. But the things that get me, like, where I find myself getting mad or getting offended by, it's like cruelty, people being mean to each other, people bullying each other, selfishness, like consumerism, like that stuff really pushes my buttons. but what can you do? Like there was a time, in my life when I was very angry about politics, and now I find that like the best for my own like mental health, the best way to deal with that stuff is just to try and find the joke in it, and try and find the absurdity in it, and try and find something funny about it.
Let me ask you about the 10 days or whatever of Christmas, and you guys did this last year too. When you guys send out these envelopes with whatever's inside, this is just as a math nerd sort of thing to ask, but you guys have like a game going with codes, and there are, special secrets that you got to find within the packages themselves. And at some point, people will figure out what the secret code is or what the puzzle is. And it's a hard game to play. Who comes up with all that? Is that you guys as well, or is that outsourced to like, I don't know, MIT is running this part of the project somewhere?
Well, it actually, funny you should mention that. It actually is run by some MIT folks.
No way!
Yes!
Oh my god!
So last year the puzzle.
What is happening?
So last year the puzzle was written by Josh, who's one of the co-creators of Cards, and he used to organize the Stanford Puzzle Hunt, and now he works in the MIT Puzzle Hunt. So
that thing is it's a big puzzle. Yeah, tournament.
Yep. Yeah, it's wicked, the puzzle that they put together every year. So Josh did a really good job with it. But this year we wanted to really we wanted to make something really memorable and like extremely challenging. This is the kind of puzzle that it might well take people a year or several years to put all the pieces together and solve. So we actually worked with our friend Mike Selinker for Loan Shark Games, and he's a professional puzzle designer. So he's pretty much any ARG or puzzle that's of note that's happened in the last couple decades. Mike's had his hand in some way or another. So he's also worked on the MIT Puzzle Hunt. He's done puzzles for Wired and all kinds of cool clients. And I mean, the stuff he put together this year, it just makes my head spin. It's just unbelievable how good it is. And there's the fun thing about this year is there's clues everywhere. Everything that we put out for the holidays here is just full of clues.
Wow. I glanced at the subreddit that was created for people to discuss this puzzle, and the things they were coming up with, I had to go back to my envelope and be like, whoa, I didn't catch that.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know this was a code. This was part of maybe it's not part of the mystery. Who knows? But it's very elaborate what you guys have put together.
Yeah. Max?
Yeah, there's like layers of puzzles. There's like easy puzzles that come every day, and then you need to use those to get into the deeper puzzles.
That's awesome.
And they're doing a really good job on the easy puzzles, but they haven't even started on the hard stuff yet.
Wow.
Max, I found this tweet. I'm going to tweet it at you. If you don't want to share your Twitter handle on the podcast, we can talk later. Okay.
It's just at Max Temkin or at CAH.
Max.
She'll send it to you.
My Twitter handle is Blueberry. I'm gonna send it to you.
Max, while she's doing that, you actually have a day job, right? You're like a design consultant. Is that right?
I wouldn't necessarily describe it as like a day job.
Tweeted.
And also like at least the last few weeks working on holiday stuff, it's not any kind of job. I'm just doing 80 hours a week of Cards Against Humanity lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try not to, for most of the Cards guys, and also honestly for most of our employees, everyone's got interesting stuff going on other than Cards. So Cards is, well, for me, I'll try and do spend about half of my week on Cards and half of my week doing design for nonprofits and political campaigns, as well as I'm working on other games and side projects and things like that.
Very cool. And I wonder, because all of these kind of internet phenomenons, including Cards Against Humanity, they do have a shelf life, but it seems like Cards has been going for quite some time now. Yeah. Are you worried that at some point people are going to be like, all right, I've played it. I mean, you can give me new expansion packs, but I'm done with it.
Don't rain on his parade.
I don't want to. I hope it keeps going. But, I mean, do you ever think about that? Like, what do you do after Cards?
Oh, yeah. I'm amazed it's lasted this long. Like, I mean, we're trying to... The goal right now is we're trying to build an actual stable company that's going to outlast, the popularity of this one game. But obviously, you have pressure on both sides because we want to build something sustainable and we want to, build a good foundation under this. But also, it really is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be a part of something that you get lucky and it gets this kind of momentum. So, we also don't want to hasten its demise by moving on too quickly to something else. So we've got a couple of really cool projects in the work, and I think you'll see some new stuff from us in 2015.
That's awesome.
But the game is still growing. Like I'm pretty much the biggest pessimist in the group, and I always think that every set we sell is the last one. Like anytime we sell something, I'm like, well, that was fun while it lasted. But it continues to grow. Like we actually just posted I did a blog post showing the bullshit, all the data behind the bullshit sale, and you can see on there like we're killing it. As compared to last year, like our overall our sales are way higher. So
that's fantastic.
It keeps going.
So, Max, we're just about to wrap up. Just one last question. Do you have any projects you're working on besides cards that you want to...
Yeah, what is coming out in 2015?
Yeah.
Let's see. What's exciting? Well, I have recently joined the board of advisors of a really cool organization called DonorsChoose.org. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. But it's kind of a Kickstarter for teachers. So teachers can list things like classroom supplies that they need for their classroom, and then just normal people can go and buy those things for their classroom. And DonorsChoose act as kind of the middleman. So they actually go out, the teacher doesn't get the money, DonorsChoose gets the money, and then they actually go out and procure the stuff, and they're able to get supplies because they're a big purchaser. They can get this stuff for teachers at really cheap prices. So they're an amazing organization, and they do so much good work in Chicago. So I've been very involved with them. And I'm helping them build out their design resources a little bit. And working on some of their digital stuff with them. So that's probably the thing I'm most excited about.
That's awesome. It's a great organization. As someone who was a teacher, I'm thankfully at an affluent school because that's what happens in the Chicago suburbs. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of teachers, friends on Facebook and stuff who have used DonorsChoose, and they definitely appreciated the help that they got.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool. It's really cool to me that it's like simultaneously I find it very helpful because it works, but also like if you go on there and you can one of the sort options is you can go to like look at all the projects in Chicago sorted by which school districts have the highest poverty, and so it's like that. The helpful part is that this thing works, but the sad part is that it's kind of necessary. And if you sort by poverty, there are some tough ones to look at where it's like, our kids are sharing one textbook, and we need textbooks for everyone. Like, we ran out of pens. Yeah. We need pens, like really basic stuff. So whenever I'm feeling down, I'll just go on DonorsChoose, and like, if you spend just a couple $100, like you can buy a huge amount of classroom supplies for kids. And then they also write you thank you letters. Like the kids will send you little notes in the mail. And there's no better pick-me-up in the world if you're feeling bad.
Yeah.
Other than bullshit, in case that gets delivered to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Max, thank you so much for your time. Keep up the good work you guys are doing with Cards Against Humanity, because it brings a smile to so many people's faces.
It's a lot of fun.
In a very different way than DonorsChoose probably does. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Thanks for listening to the podcast for FriendlyAtheist.com. This episode was taped at Cinnamon Sound Studios in Aurora, Illinois. The music was composed by Brad Chagdis. If you like what you're hearing, please consider making a contribution at patreon.com/Hemant, that's He-Man T. We appreciate your support. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. I'm Hemant Mehta.
And I'm Jessica Blumke. We hope you'll join us next time.